So what peer review means is that you have a scientific finding and you're trying to publish it, get it out into the world so that it's common knowledge. And your peers are going to review your paper. They will review all the experiments that you did. They will be critical of those. They might say, well, why didn't you do it this way instead of that way? They might also criticize your conclusions. Well, we think A plus B equals D, not C. So why did you say it equaled C? And so what that does is that critical peer review makes you sit back and say, this is how somebody who didn't do the experiments reads what I wrote and comes away with the message. So I need to figure out a way to help them understand the message better. So the peer review is just a way for you to get another set of eyes that looked at your data, and it lets you know whether people really agree or they don't agree with what you decided were the outcomes and the answers. So it's really a check and balance system. It helps keep scientists honest, and it also is a good way for you to see, am I communicating what I wanted to say the best way possible? I think that corporations have always been somewhat involved in university research, but I think what we're seeing is it's becoming more knowledgeable, more information is out about it, and the stakes are higher. And so there's larger amounts of money being spent on research, and some of that is coming from private entities. And I think that it's a good thing as long as those relationships stay partners, as long as it's a partnering relationship, and that the university research is not compromised in any way by the amounts of money that's being exchanged. And so what I see is that it's a way to help fund that inquiry and get down to the basic knowledge that's needed, because it's really hard to find those funds at the government levels these days. And so we really do need private partners to help fund the research that we're trying to do in so many areas. So I think it's a good thing, and I know it's well managed in most universities so that we don't have to worry about conflict of interest or conflict of commitment. Absolutely. I mean, I don't see any other reason to do it unless it's for the public good. And so whether it's doing science to help farmers or doing science to explore space, it's all really meant to be in the public good, to advance the public knowledge or to help advance questions that affect the public and that affect their lives. Those are really hard questions, and I think that there again, when a private company patents something, clearly they're doing it to protect some piece of intellectual property that they know they want to build and expand upon. And if they've developed it on their own, it's clearly within their intellectual property domain to keep that. Universities are starting to do more of that. The idea there, though, is to patent it in order to make it as an income generating piece, as well as to protect that intellectual property that belongs to maybe that faculty member. And if you just let it out there, then it can be grabbed by anybody, used and patented by them. So it has, our society has kind of made it happen where everybody's patenting things now, because you can't build upon something if you haven't patented. So for instance, if you do discover a special gene that makes tomatoes taste absolutely wonderful, you'll want to patent that so that you can build upon that and put that in seeds that can be out in the public domain. If you let it go, it could get patented by a private entity that then will perhaps not let it out in the public domain. So again, it's a strange interrelationship, but a lot of the ones that we're seeing now, they're patenting things together, where the university and the private sector are patenting those together. So we're seeing more and more partnerships in all of this. I think it's really critical to get your kids outside. And I'm one of those proponents of no kid left inside. When I think of myself, I mean, I grew up in a small apartment in San Francisco, but we lived near Golden Gate Park, and so my parents were always taking me outside for a bike ride to Golden Gate Park or a picnic to the park. And so our study group was these little squirrels that you'd feed peanuts to, and they'd run up the eucalyptus trees and things like that. But again, it gives you that inquiry, you know, and makes you think about the world beyond those walls that you live in. And to me, I think it's really critical that people get outside. My father liked to fish, so we had not only the Golden Gate Park, but we had fishing underneath the Golden Gate Bridge or around the Bay Bridge. And then from there, we would drive through various places in the valley to reservoirs and go fishing there. So there was a lot of outside, and we didn't have that trap, that indoor trap to stay inside and play on the computer or something like that. So I think it really does make a big difference how kids interact with their environment and the outdoors and see more of what little world they have, but to see as much of it as they can outside of where they live. What makes me the most concerned or worried, I would say, is that I'm seeing if you look at the national statistics on the number of kids graduating from high school in inner cities, it's going down. And so we're seeing less people with even the basic skills being able to contribute to science. And that does worry me. I don't understand what's happening in our schools to turn our kids off to the point where they're not even graduating. And then the second thing that worries me is there's fewer kids that want to major in science or go into the sciences. And that is really a worry, and we don't understand why. Part of me says it could be teaching methods. You know, I was the kind of kid that could sit in a chair in a classroom and pore over a book for hours. A lot of kids today have to have active learning, and yet we're still making them sit in the chair, pore over the book for hours. And so I think we really need to look at our teaching methods. And that's what's so exciting about Extension. We don't sit and look at a book for hours. We actually go out and do it in hands-on, active learning. And so I really think that those are the things that worry me, is that we're not putting people in the pipeline to learn and do more science. Well, for me, what gives me a sense of hope is that I really feel that the scientists are more and more interested in working on not just some little question, but answering the bigger picture. More and more scientists are coming out that are much more interested in the global effects of the science that they work on. And so I really feel that down the road, we're going to see a lot more systems research, more global research, and much more research that is aimed at improving the quality of our lives here on this planet. So that gives me a lot of hope. I think from the extension side, what gives me a lot of hope is the tremendous amount of interest that I see the undergraduates having in public service and service learning, and really making a difference in the kind of work that they do. There was a time when students came through, especially my generation, and the deal was we were going to get a college education and make money. And those two words, make money, was on everybody's lips, and never really saying, you know, I'm going to go out there and make a difference. The students now are coming out saying, I want to make a difference. I want to have an impact somewhere. And so that gives me a lot of hope.